Hello, this is Bob74H back with another video today. And today I will be discussing the topic of canon in anime, or the idea of canonicity in the anime community, and the anime series in general. So, the issue with it is there's no objective standard in which to go by. So, when you have shows and series like Marvel Comics, Star Wars, MCU, things like that, there's a defined canon. I'm not so sure about the MCU, but in general, in these Western shows, there is a definitive canon version, you could say. Like in Star Wars, they have the canon universe. In the Marvel series, they have a Marvel company, whatever you want to call it. They have the 616 comics, and in DC, I guess you have the Prime Universe or the Prime Earth. So, with these different universes and different continuities existing, that leads away, it leads to saying, why don't these animes have these different continuities? Why aren't there different versions of Naruto? So these people who are grown up on this type of media, right? They're grown up on Western ideas or Western ideals. They will generally project that image onto these anime because they were growing up with Western media, which generally had this approach. So what they do is they try to subjectively assert their opinion as fact. Because I have a few scans I'll post up from Naruto forums, but on during the video itself, but it's generally subjective even by the people who in practice this idea. But they tend to not say that or admit that usually. You'll get a few people who are honest. I'm gonna put them up on screen. I'm not gonna censor their names because they chose to publicly comment on a public forum, so they have responsibility to what they say. If they do not like that, then they shouldn't have publicly posted something online. If I were to post a DM or something, that would be different. This is a publicly posted comment, so it is subject to criticism or public criticism. And if they do not like that, then they are free to comment on my video, and I will politely take down the image. However, in the current stance of this video, or the current stance of this discussion, I will leave it up until further notice. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. I have one guy by the name of, I think it's pronounced Kiru. He says, in quote, I am free to imagine Anbu Kakashi as Sonny level, as the manga does not demonstrate that. So what he's admitting here, low-key, what he's admitting here is he's low-key admitting that he is using the manga community consensus idea of canon to ignore valid evidence so he could go and spread his ideological stance. I called him out on this low-key. I called him out on this low-key reference, and he literally admitted he uses the idea of canon to subjectively assert values. And you could say, well, that's just one guy, and you may be correct. However, we all know that there's a deeper root to this theory, to this idea. And before someone says, well, it's objective, and you are just a bigot or you're just wrong, because we all know how people act when they are faced with valid criticism. Anyways, back to what I was saying. So, I will ask for valid evidence. I've did this in the same thread, which I will link. I've asked for valid evidence numerous times, and they would literally skirt around it by saying, well, he didn't appear in the manga. As if that's a contradiction or inconsistency within the narrative. And even if there was inconsistencies within the anime narrative, then that wouldn't make any sense considering there's contradictions within the manga itself. And under that train of logic, we should thereby say the manga is not canon to itself because it contradicts itself. And because it contradicts itself, therefore it cannot be canon to itself. This is the same train of logic in which they're using. So if you're one of these canon people who says, well, the anime can't be canon because of contradictions, then you also have to admit the manga cannot be canon to itself due to more contradictions. And this whole philosophy or idea is really self-contradicting. So in the anime, in the Boruto anime, there is this filler arc where you have a character known as Buntan Kurasuki, and she is the child of Raiga Kurasaki. And what happens is she literally references his death scene or his suicide from the original Naruto anime. It's verbatim referenced. You could say what, but Naruto kicked him off the cliff. Well, he didn't die from falling off the cliff though. He shot lightning at himself while he was falling off the cliff. So, the cause of death wasn't Naruto kicking him, it was that he shot himself with lightning. And don't say he would have died from the cliff fall, because that's utterly stupid. He's a trained ninja with adequate ability to fight and or compared to Zabuza. And if you say otherwise, then you're completely foolish, as you ravel stomped the Konoha 11, while Zabuza literally had to move just from Team 7. Anyways, back on topic. This idea of canon is entirely subjective, and because they consider the Boruto anime canon, they literally put a hole in their own argument. They literally destroy their own positioning. As to say A is canon, you would also have to accept anything related to A as associated, right? So if I say, well, this is within its own universe, and then the thing that I say is in its own universe also has a thing that's considered outside of its universe referenced, then you literally have a self-contradicting continuity, which wouldn't exist if it's so-called objective. And again, I fail to see any Kishimoto quotes, any Kodachi quotes, or any quotes by the Bird Parrot staff which in any way suggest this idea. So it's entirely subjective, and it's an idea created by the community because of subjective standards and because of versus battle type ideas. And this is a mainstream thing in anime, and definitely Naruto as well. So they do this so they can ignore certain pieces of evidence which contradict their ideas. And since this is a relatively short video, or a relatively short clip, I'm going to shortly address the issue with versus battles. It's the same issue with politics in that if you are against or have a logical argument to show otherwise, they will call you, well, wanker, downplay, or whatever. That's what they do in the versus community. Well, in politics, they have that same thing, where if you're a leftist, or if you're promoting leftist ideas in a logical, feasible way, then you're a SJW commie because you can't have opinions or have any logical reason to suggest anything that opposes the right-wing narrative, or you're an SJW. And if you have any logical argument or any logical reason to suggest the right wing being correct, then you're a Nazi right-winger. It's just a bunch of fucking slurs and a bunch of insults to invalidate positionings or to dehumanize the person talking. And this is the entire issue with versus battles, and this is the entire issue with politics. It's all, you're wrong, and there's no reason to suggest otherwise because it's all subjective slurs. And as for the video, I'm gonna post, like I said, 2 screenshots on the screen. So if you enjoy my rant and or tangent, then please feel free to subscribe and or comment or like, and if you dislike the video, then you're also free to dislike, which I'm sure I'll be getting a lot of in this video, as people are not in agreement with my objective idea. Not objective idea, but with my objective view of things. Because people are too inclined to their subjective beliefs in order to accept reality. Because accepting reality is a fallacious thing which people do not want to do, as they live within their subjective premises. And anything that contradicts those subjective premises is bigoted, evil, or racist. And if you're on the right, it's a SJW commie conspiracy by the elites who are killing babies and turning them into sheep goats. Alex Jones told me, after all. Thank you and have a great day, peeps.